The last few months have been a roller coaster for the Buffalo Bills. They're the least consistent team in the NFL by a wide margin according to Football Outsiders' variance metric, especially on the offensive side of the ball. This year, the Bills have struggled to replicate their offensive success of 2020, and after their loss to Urban Meyer's Jaguars back in Week 9, I spent my week studying this offense in an effort to understand their dramatic fall from dominance to mediocrity in the span of just a few months. Now, with the Bills coming off a huge win over Bill Belichick's top 3 Patriots defense, I figured that it was only right for me to take another long look at this offense to figure out what they're doing differently and why it's working. Before I do that though, I want to take you back to that horrible Jacksonville game in Week 9 and recall the issues that I outlined after watching this offense up to that point in the season. In 2020, the Bills were one of the most explosive passing offenses in the league, especially on first and second down. By the end of last season, they ranked second in explosive pass plays on first and second down. But as I said in my last video, they dropped to 23rd in explosive pass rate through Week 9 of 2021. Since then, that rate has gone up slightly, and through Week 16, they rank 20th. But despite some better performances in the second half of the season, the Bills' offense is still far behind where it was last year in terms of explosiveness. Now, as the Bills proved on Sunday and in their last few games, you don't have to be explosive to be productive on offense. The key to the reignition of this offense hasn't been explosiveness at all. In fact, it's been the opposite. In the first half of the season, and especially in that Jaguars game, Josh Allen struggled to take what the defense was giving him because he was so successful when throwing downfield in 2020. Last year was the first year that defenses had seen an ultra pass-heavy Josh Allen / Brian Daboll offense, but after an offseason of adjustments, defenses have played the Bills much differently. I went more in depth into the numbers behind these defensive adjustments in my last video on this offense, so if you want some context, go check that out. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to sum up those trends here. This year, the Bills' offense is facing 2 high safety shells at a far higher rate than last year, and defenses are blitzing less than they did last year. They're selling out to prevent those shots downfield with 2 high shells and soft zone coverage while daring Allen to just check down. One of the main reasons why the Bills' offense has started to get back to where they were at the end of last season is Allen is taking those checkdowns. He's progressing through his reads at a much faster pace and taking what the defense gives him much more consistently. Here, the Patriots are in a 2 high safety shell, and those safeties will expand toward the sidelines post-snap in a Tampa 2. This variation of Tampa 2 tells the will or weak side linebacker to drop deep into the seam between those 2 deep safeties, which will open space in the middle of the field underneath. Allen first looks to Diggs on a slant but sees that he's bracketed by the Mike linebacker and flat zone corner, so he wastes no time in progressing to his check down and picks up a new set of downs before the pass rush gets in. In the first half of the game especially, New England played a lot of soft zone coverage like most of the Bills' opponents have this season, and relied on their pass rushers to get pressure up the middle. The interior of the Bills' offensive line has had trouble all season with winning up front, whether that's one-on-one or through passing off stunts. And they were better in Week 16 than they have been in the past, but Allen still dealt with a lot of pressure in his face. He was pressured on 20 of his 49 dropbacks, which is over 40% of the time, but that pressure didn't stop him from making plays because he was so decisive with the football. He knew when he had enough time to hit a long developing route downfield, and when to check off of those deep shot concepts in favor of one of his running backs underneath. After Allen and the Bills' offense marched down the field a couple times, New England started to pay more attention to those checkdowns. They started to play more aggressively with man and match coverage to prevent Josh Allen from picking apart their zone coverage and to force the Bills' receivers to win downfield before the pass rush got in. Here, New England is in cover 1 rat, which calls for man coverage across the board with a rat linebacker over the middle. The Bills called their spear concept, which tells 2 receivers to run intersecting over routes with a deep post from the number 1. This is a concept that the Bills ran a ton last season, especially against teams like Miami and New England who like to run man coverage. And when you have fast receivers, which the Bills do, these over routes are nearly impossible to cover consistently one-on-one. The problem is, they take a long time to develop, so pressure often ruins these deep crossing concepts before they have a chance at getting open. Post-snap, Patriots defensive tackle Christian Barmore wins almost instantly, which would typically force Allen to either leave the pocket or to check down, but because he knows that Isaiah McKenzie needs just another split second to get open, Allen keeps his eyes downfield while he sidesteps the pressure and floats a perfect ball into McKenzie's hands on the sideline. Now, as much as this game was a convincing display of why Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, it was also a display of why Brian Daboll is one of the best offensive minds in the league as well. As a coach, there isn't much you can do to prevent interior pressure on a standard dropback, but you can move the pocket, which Daboll did a few times over the course of Sunday's game. Here, the Bills ran a flood concept off of wide zone action, and the concept didn't get open the way it was designed to, but the beauty of these designed rollouts is they allow receivers to find space in zone coverage while the defenders have their eyes on the quarterback. Here, Jake Kumerow sat in the middle of the field while the zone defenders flowed toward the ball, and Allen hit him on target across his body for a 13-yard gain. Daboll's effort to give his quarterback more time and to get him out of the pocket was obvious on much more than just designed rollouts too. On almost every one of Allen's dropbacks, either the tight end, the running back, or both would chip the Patriots' edge rushers, which completely disrupted their pass rush plan whether they were actually chipped or just expecting to be chipped. Patriots edge rusher Matthew Judon finished this game with a grand total of 1 pressure, and by the end of the game he was visibly and understandably frustrated with these chips because they completely prevented him from getting to the quarterback. On this play from early in the fourth quarter, the Bills ran a cross-dig concept against the Patriots' cover 3 zone, and I want you to pay close attention to Judon at the bottom of your screen. Because he's anticipating a chip from Dawson Knox, he doesn't even rush the passer and instead commits a holding penalty when Knox makes contact. Judon was a non-factor in the pass rush, so Bills left tackle Deion Dawkins was able to find work in pass protection, which sealed the left side defensive tackle inside and allowed Allen to roll out of the pocket. Allen then hit Isaiah McKenzie deep downfield for a 28-yard gain on his deep over route. Even when these edge rushers weren't chipped, they were still affected because they knew that if they went with an outside rush and they were chipped, Allen would easily be able to get out of the pocket, which is where he's the most dangerous. This 4th and 2 play from late in the first half was my personal favorite play of the game because of a few different things. It isn't shown on the All-22 coaches angle, but the Bills got a pre-snap man coverage identifier with Dawson Knox's motion from the outside. Man coverage is pretty typical in 4th and short situations though, so that isn't all that important. What is important is the way Dawson Knox lines up. Look at how his hips are open toward Kyle Van Noy on the edge. Van Noy is expecting to be chipped here, and out of fear of Allen breaking contain, he's slow off the line of scrimmage, which makes the left tackle Deion Dawkins' job much easier. A speed release from Knox was essential to the success of this play because it pulled Kyle Duggar vertically, which opened up space over the middle for Stefon Diggs on his slant route. But the other thing I love so much about this play is Josh Allen's process. This route combination is the same on both sides. It calls for corner routes from the number 2 receivers, which will clear out the apex defenders, and slants from the number 1s. Post-snap, Allen first looks to his right, but checks off because the outside cornerback lined up over Emmanuel Sanders was heavily leveraged inside. This forced Allen to progress to Diggs on his left side, but he saw that there was a rat linebacker sitting over the middle, so he pump faked to move that rat, then connected with Diggs for a 23-yard gain. Because I'm a Bills fan, I've watched every game that Josh Allen has played since he came into the league, most of them more than once, and in my opinion, this was the best performance of his career. He was accurate, he was decisive, and he put a top 3 defense on their heels for all 4 quarters. I mean, they never punted. It took over 450 games for an offense to do that against a Bill Belichick defense. And if this game isn't proof that the Bills' offense is back, I don't know what is. But that's all I've got for today. My Twitter, Patreon, TikTok, all that stuff is linked in the description, so check those out if you'd like to support the channel. Next week, I'll probably be studying Cooper Kupp as he inches closer to Calvin Johnson's receiving yards record, but still seems to fall short of that best receiver in the league status. I hope you all have a great start to the new year, so until next time, cheers!